Welcome to the Practice Podcast, conversations probing the nature of practice. I'm your host, Dave Fearon. This is a conversation with John Uliano. Peter Vale and I had a conversation with John 3 years ago, while Peter was still very much alive and very, very interested in hearing how John spoke, not just what he said, but his energy, his spirit, his clear interest in the people he served as their manager. So it's still true today, 3 years later, but the scope of John's attention has widened greatly now that he is the new president of one of the manufacturing companies of the Cadrex Corporation, where they are making some very highly manufactured implements like robots. So you'll know more about that when you listen to John, but I just want to say that practice is so many things, but it's how much of yourself you care to put into whatever matters to you, whatever results you seek on a day-to-day basis. And John used a great word, cadence, when I asked him, how have you kept yourself going all these years? So many challenges. Cadence. You get it so that you just don't lose the beat. You keep going until the improvements come, and then you continue to go after that. So listen for that in this conversation and many other lessons that we're going to learn about practice as a way of being. This is John Uliano's way of being. Folks, if you go to the beginning, way back to the beginning of this podcast series, almost 3 years ago, but you'll find it if you scroll down through Podomatic, if Spotify, get down into the time when Peter Vale and I reached out to several of my former students and had a conversation. Now, that was quite a long while ago, John. John Uliano was one of those conversations. And I can remember after, when Peter and I sort of debriefed, Peter said, now, Dave, John has got it. He's got what we're writing about. He's a practitioner with a large P. And I said, well, why? And he said, because he's all in regard to what he does. He lives it, breathes it. And of course, he's got a life, but he's all in. So that was a long time ago. And ever since, John's been failing and falling out, not getting much done. And no, I'm kidding. You still are. Only every time you fall into a new place, you get a bigger scope of responsibility, much more complexity. And so I want to ask you first, President of Cadrex, new president, what do you do when you walk to work and come in through whatever door you enter or whatever screen you turn on to see how the whole thing is working versus one nice tiny little slot when you used to run a machine at Wiremold? But thank you for coming.
First of all, I want to thank you, Doc, for having me. And I'm very humbled, obviously, from the original recording with you and Peter. Yeah. I'm very humbled in terms of being able to actually interface and chat with both of you, and excited to see you and talk to you again today. But back to, answering the question in terms of coming into the new role. Yeah, I was president of the Cadrex Agawam facility. Walking into any new opportunity that I have, really being engaged and aware and plugging into all aspects of the business is how you kind of get that broader lens. It's extremely time consuming, but obviously well worth it. Obviously, you have your look at the financials so you can see what's happening. but you really need to know what's happening behind all the numbers. As I had the opportunity here, going ahead and diving into, my direct staff, but then their people as well, and then floor. So obviously, on the Gemba, where all the action's happening is really where you get a good insight as to what's happening. So to ensure that you're spending time, talking to the people out on the floor, observing what's happening, is really where you get a broad amount of knowledge to understand what's happening within the company. And it is, fairly time consuming. You do want to understand, what people are doing, how they're doing it, what challenges are, what's going well, what's not going well. And when I walked in to this facility, as I did a lot of the others, I made it clear about how, I go about managing is I'm here to help. And so my initiative, or how I try to drive improvements, is through the people that know the operations and the business best. And so I told them right from the first day that I'm going to leverage their knowledge. I'm going to leverage what they've been doing, because they're obviously have been in the organization for far longer than I have. And so my strategy is to take what they know, understand what challenges they have, and then work to remove those challenges, all along the while, like working on the strategy with the team, so they understand, where we're going, why we're going there, and what role that they play in that initiative.
I think of a word, perception, and it's one of the conjectures that Peter and I had in our book on practice, as a way of being, that being perceptible, being someone who understands the importance of clear, not simple perception, but unfiltered perception of the situations and the changing conditions. It's a discipline, isn't it, John? It's not like, I think I'll just glance around and see what's going on. Over these years that you have been my friend and former student, and been very much involved in making manufacturing people do the work better. You've had this developing way of taking everything in. Some people would be content with looking at the numbers and saying, okay, I think I know what's happening here. That's not you. How have you sharpened that eye, do you think, over the years?
It's funny you mentioned that. I always have to put myself in check in terms of what I see and what I think I see, and to not, put the rose-colored glasses on when you go into any of the situations where you have a perception of what's happening, but it was funny. We were in a meeting where I was just with some of the divisional presidents, or divisional or segment presidents. And we put a slide up, and it was the old iceberg slide, right? Yeah. And you have the tip of the iceberg coming out of the water, and there's this massive piece underneath, and it says the leaders of the organization really only see 4% of the company's problems. And that's so humbling, isn't it? That's what brings me. It brings me to think of that from the comment you just made in terms of the perception is to really make sure that you could see the numbers again, but you as a leader, you're not, especially as you get into larger organizations, you do not have the ability to see down, but your people do. So it's creating mechanisms for your people to have ability to make improvements and to make changes. So that's obviously, you want to do that, have them do that on their own, support them to do that. But also, you have to have conduits of communication, so that as you have larger problems that they need help with, that number one, they feel comfortable with raising their hand and saying, hey, we've got an issue here. But you got to make sure they're comfortable. One, then two is that there is a conduit for that communication to go up the chain so that you can address those issues. So it's actually interesting. It was just last week we were presenting, and I put the iceberg slide up, and as leaders in the organization, we really all agreed the fact that we really, as leaders, in this slide it was 4% of the problems is what the top leaders see, and obviously that's, if we're only seeing that slice, then your perception is not the full reality of what's happening. So how do you combat that?
You're calling shots with so little information comparatively to all the information that could be available, that it'd be like a quarterback playing with dark glasses on, that you'd see the ball coming, you get the snap, and then you just throw the ball. And you hope like hell there's someone out there that's going to catch it, given the Super Bowl reference here. But I'm hearing something else, because I've known you about this, and that is that if you have 300 employees, you have 600 pairs of eyes, 600 pairs of ears, 600 minds, 600 mouths to speak and ask and talk. So under that 4%, there's the rest. And what I'm hearing you saying is that to the extent that you can create a structure and a system and a culture where people can use those eyes and ears on behalf of the business and not just the normal way they would use them, there's success ahead. That's not an overnight thing, though, is it?
No. I mean, that's one of the largest, anytime you step into a new role, I think that's one of the largest opportunities. I mean, depending on where the culture starts with when you enter. But in my experience, it's always, there's always an opportunity to improve the culture. But yeah, that boat does not shift quickly. And it is through, communication. It's through gaining trust. It's through having people see actions in terms of what you're trying to accomplish. As I had mentioned before, kind of stepping in to remove roadblocks so that that my team can be successful. And your words are cheap. I always tell my team, I consider part of my success, a large part of how I consider myself successful, is if my people are successful. Yeah. And those are great words, right? But when they see it turned into action, and then hopefully, as they experience that, then they can do that in turn for their people. Yeah. And so, it doesn't happen overnight. It has to happen through, unfortunately, there's some trials and tribulations. Yeah. And you got to go through, some hard times together, and then easy times. And as you're going through the journey, if you're continuing to demonstrate that it's not just words, but demonstrate through actions that you truly believe that starts to move the needle on the culture. And as you get the key influencers in the organization seeing and hearing, and then speaking about these things, then that continues to trickle through the rest of the organization. So it isn't something that happens overnight, but as you go through those experiences, through that, those tough times, especially as we, one of our capabilities that we talk to here is that we rise to the challenge. Mm-hmm. And so when you have these opportunities and these that are thrown at you, and people rise to the challenge, and you see how, they're watching, they're going to see how you react. They're going to see how you behave. They're going to see, what you do. And as you continue to demonstrate, through actions, it's not just words that you're going to start to move that culture.
Yeah, I picture action as points of flashing light. If you look at it, that there's a sort of a non-action, and then someone does something, and at that moment there's light. It flies out, and it's insight, it's discovery, it's excitement. When the action takes people up the curve of rising to the occasion, but it's done with a capital D, done through action. So if there's any condition that impairs people from having that flash of light, even if they're pushing a broom across the shop floor, there's ways that they can clean that floor faster with better products, then you're at it. And I remember that from way back from your conditioning initially in the Toyota management system, now quite a few years ago when you were my student. But it was still today, the Gemba, it's still where the action happens. So however, now that you're a president, you're sitting up there 15 floors up in the corner office, right? With mahogany desk and people between you and is that you?
Well, I'm on the floor every day. So I love it. I think my favorite part of the day, to be honest with you, we have a 7 a.m. Gemba walk.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
going to each area in the plant, and they're reporting out. And again, it's not just the philosophy. I think we talked about this before. The philosophy is that we're just going. They're going to report their metrics because you're gonna put the thumb on the back of the head saying, "Hey,
yeah, 3% last week. Where are you on that? Here comes the principal."
Right, but that walk is more of they explain what's happening, and then they explain what's going well and then what their challenges are. And you have a large group there, including myself, every morning that's there to support that team member in terms of what they need. In fact, one of the last questions that some of the leadership asks as we go to the next station when they're done reporting is, what help do you need? What do you need from us? And so, being out on the floor, talking to the people, having your finger on the pulse of what's going on out there, and being accessible is something that, you talk about the corner office. I think that the most fun, I think, is being out on the floor where the action's happening.
Yeah. And I'm looking, folks, at John's office on my screen, and I don't see any mahogany, and I don't see a lovely person serving him coffee in a porcelain cup. And I don't know that could be you, even if there was a corner office available to you, John, because I think you like to be perceived as a fellow human being and not a suit, right?
Yeah, you're exactly right. I had one opportunity, one position I was in as the chief operations officer, and the office was too far away from the action, so I actually moved the office to closer to the action. Yeah, I remember that. I remember visiting you and you saying, "Look, I don't like being this far away from the shop floor." Now, just tell folks what your colleagues out there, or associates or partners, or however you refer to them, are making. What are they manufacturing at? We're really proud and happy to be a large supplier of the Amazon robots. So we do a lot of half of the business, I would say, is machining, precise machining, some fairly large pieces of equipment where we're actually machining those castings that come in, and then we do assembly for a lot of the mechanicals for the Amazon robots, and then they go over to the North Reading facility where they're doing the final assembly. And then in addition to that, we're making large castings for the semiconductor industry. Yes. So that obviously is a growing market, and we're working with the customers in order to improve the output, improve the quality as we're seeing a lot of opportunity within that market segment. We also make thermal transfer units for the electric buses. So these are units that basically will heat and cool the batteries on the electric buses to ensure that they remain at the proper temperature as the bus goes through its speed cycles. And similar to that, we have another cooling unit. It's a complex mechanical assembly that we do for blood analyzing equipment. And so that unit will basically keep the blood cool as it's going through its testing procedures. So we got a pretty wide breadth of products that we offer, and some of them are fairly significant.
Quite a span. And is there some of the constant among those products that the casting of tubing or the casting of the kinds of conduits that make all those different things work? Is that your basic thing?
Yeah, the two basic pieces is large, I'll say medium to large, complex machining of large. Typically, we do aluminum casting, and then we do complex mechanical assemblies. So those are kind of the two large pieces of the business that we're in.
So that workforce that you've been learning with and seeing in those morning walks on the Gemba, they have to be pretty sharp, don't they, in terms of what they're responsible to do, working with all that machinery and all the complexities and precision. Sounds to me like it's never been more important, particularly in the products having to do with the blood transfers and the safety of a bus. So, no one's listening, John. I'm sure this podcast will only go between you and me, but are you confident in that workforce being able to handle that kind of high responsibility?
Yeah, I've been actually very impressed with the workers that we have here and what they're capable of doing. And in addition to that, I mean, because we're growing, so as we are as we're expanding, we have over 20 positions open right now that we're looking for skilled labor in terms of the machining. And so we're looking for more. So part of what we've done internally is created a mentor and development program for our people. So you might have some people that are doing like I'll say less complex assemblies, and we're offering them opportunities to learn on the machining side and how to run the machines, how to measure their product, how to dial in the machines for the precision to produce quality products. So not only am I impressed with the team that we have, because we're taking these senior operators and in some case junior operators, and we're pairing them with less skilled people, and in both the results of what we've seen is that the apprentice, if you will, are really excited about the opportunity they're getting, but it's also reinvigorating for those operators that are training them. Yes. And so that the feedback from the program has been tremendous so far. So we just started this about a month ago, and I'm really excited that we're going to make this part of our standards as we go forward.
Oh, I love that idea. Everyone benefits, but the newbies, if you will, or the people who were hired initially for the simple skill level work, have something to be hopeful about.
Absolutely. And so we want to make sure they have a career path that they can follow within the organization. And there is especially with the amount of the skill that's required for some of these assemblies and some of the machining, they absolutely have a very long career path that they can follow within the organization. So we need to, we not only do it, but we need to advertise it. We started all hands meetings every month where we're communicating what's happening within the business, and the feedback has been tremendous on that, because we haven't, the previous management team, I don't think they didn't communicate as much as we're doing. And so, we want to ensure that the employees know what's going on within the business. Again, they know what their role is and then where we're going. And so as we are growing, that they are going to grow with us. And again, it's not just words, but it is, here's our apprentice program. We want you to grow with us. Here's our openings. We want you to, we have some people that have actually bid off the floor, if you will, into salaried positions that are, and we want to continue to promote that and have a career path for our folks.
I'm thinking of how many times I've heard over the last few months that there's a surfeit of manufacturing jobs and not enough people to take them. I think from what you're describing, John, that given that you're located in Agawam and in that area of where there have been some downturns over the years, that there would be really good word of mouth going about, to their friends, through their families. Maybe everyone's just gathered this Sunday watching the Super Bowl, and there's a 19-year-old nephew of one of your employees who's sort of looking a little bored, and the word is, hey, if you're willing to put your shoulder to the wheel and learn, there's an opportunity at my place, but you gotta come in like you would on the field of this game, ready to play. Is that? Can you imagine that scenario?
Yeah, you hit upon, like, as you mentioned that, Doc, there's a number of things that come to mind. I mean, one is the fact that, we personally think about the measurement, the true measurement of the organization is what people say when they're not in the plant. Like you had said, they're around the dinner table, they're at the corner of the bar talking to their friends, and what do they say about the company? And that's kind of the true measure of what kind of company you have and what kind of culture you have. And so, that means a lot to me, what people say when they're outside of work. Another point is, we talked about just yesterday, having an employee referral program. And so that was something that we had in the past here. And we were just discussing some of our high performers had come from referrals from other people within the organization. And so when you do have someone here and they love what they do and they see the opportunity, they're sharing that and they bring more people in to grow the family. That's just a true test of having results, of having an organization that people enjoy coming into and want to pull, their dearest friends or family members into.
There you go. There's that 19-year-old. Yeah. Bubba, his name is. You got to get him up off that couch, though.
But we are, a
lot of my relatives are Bubbas.
But there's certainly a shortage. We're still seeing, it's taken us longer to fill the roles than we'd like to. Again, they're higher skilled positions, but that doesn't mean that we couldn't have someone come in and they can get trained. We partner with the high school.
I was going to say, do you have any connections to some of the high schools, the tech schools, community colleges up that way?
Tech schools. Yeah, we have an apprentice that started last week from even the high schools. We're helping them with their programs. They're in the high school. They have the manufacturing program where we're giving input, which I always love.
Oh, yeah.
Academia asking, tell us what you want and how should we be training and how should we be teaching these children for these jobs, because manufacturing is not that, dirty, dingy, dim lit shop floor that some people have in their head. It's stuck in their heads. It's high technology. It's precision. It's really exciting field to get into. And
that, social too. I think some people think you're talking to a machine all day, and you're not. I mean, there's so much interaction, and it's required by the kind of quality systems that you've always made sure grow, and that is that people have to be in constant dialogue, mainly around what are you learning? Is there some transference, that kind of thing. So the image of the place, everyone's sort of hunched over, a tool all day. When I used to visit you in several of your locations, you've manufactured in quite a few now. One of the very first things that I think you did from a perception standpoint was to look and say, is this the kind of lighting? Is this the kind of cleanliness? Is this the kind of rapport that's going to make this place more productive and profitable? And there's a lot of cleaning up to do, right? The 5 S's.
Exactly. That's what came to mind. Yeah.
But once that happens, man, people feel more dignity, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's we talk about the spirit of 5S, and that's it. Well, obviously you have the safety in the organization, but one of the main keys, I think, of the spirit of the 5S program is that you come into a place that you're proud to work in. You come into a place that you're spending a lot of time there, and that you have pride in the fact when you walk through, it's clean, neat, organized. And I could honestly say here at Cadrex Agawam, the team has done a tremendous job we have over 120 CNC machines, yet our floors are completely clean. And so because
you got aluminum filings that are coming off and all kinds
absolutely.
of.
You got it. Oil, aluminum filings. And so when I walk through, and when we walk customers through and new people through, they're quite amazed at what they see. And we're really proud of what our facility looks like here.
That's partly because the teams or the crews make sure they keep their area clean. They take responsibility for it. They don't, walk over the filings and say, well, night crew will come in and clean this. Is it more immediate attention to let's keep this place shipshape?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Everybody doing their part. And when you have it at that level to begin with, it's really, that's what's great about, that part of the 5S program is when something is awry and something starts to look messy, it sticks out like a sore thumb.
Exactly. Well, you've been on quite a journey. I heard a rumor that you're approaching 50 years of age. Now, I don't know where I heard that. You can deny it, but I wouldn't be, because I think you should be proud of it. I think in the 30 years that I've known you and tracked your career, I found wonderful consistency, John, and that is that you put everything in your mind that matters and you keep them there. You do not start to just focus on one thing or another. Somehow or another, you've been able to keep all those balls in the air. No matter where you've been, you've seen all the implications that could happen if inattention became the villain of success. So that means you have to be sharp, fit. You've got to keep yourself in tip-top condition. So how do you do that? Because you look good.
For half a century, thanks.
Half a century, yeah. But 30 of those years, you've been pounding it pretty hard as far as all the challenges you've taken on and met. The moves that you've had to make in order to keep your family in the condition you want them to be, it's pretty admirable. But there were some times during the pandemic when one of our podcasts, when it was clear that you were really in the middle of the toughest time I think this country has had in many, many years, just to keep your employees employed and keeps product going out the door in one of your previous locations. So, man, how do you keep yourself in such good shape?
Yeah, I think, it's determination. I mean, it's discipline. There's no doubt that, you set a cadence, and it's, mentally and physically, Doc, it's important. And so, for me, I want to make sure I keep physically fit, because then your mind's going to certainly look to follow. But, I think it's the drive, and having the cadence and being able to get up, every morning. I get up at 4:30 every morning, and I do the workout in the gym in the morning, and then come into the plant right after, and we have the discipline and have the cadence to continue to see the gap and look to fill the gap, right? So always like the spirit of continuous improvement, seeking perfection, knowing you'll never achieve it, but always saying, look at what can I do today to make it better for tomorrow? And then on that path, how do I make it easier, but still look to make those improvements? So I certainly look to do that for both my physical shape and then the mental. I do want people here to, we always see the gap as leaders in the organization of where we're not, where we have a gap here, we have a gap there. And so we really try to make it a point to talk to the team about what we did accomplish. And so, when you say, how do you continue to stay at it, is turning back and looking behind you and saying, look at what we've did over this period of time. We start every staff meeting that we have with acknowledgments. I like that. Yeah. So the first thing we talk about in our staff meeting, because again, there's a lot of things we're going to discuss that we need to improve, but let's take a time to reflect on what went right. And so we start the meeting with acknowledgments, and we go around the table. And every week, I'm amazed. I have my folder here where I wrote down there was was it 6 different people that were recognized for things that they did, going above and beyond. And so, trying to, talk about Covey, keeping the saw sharp, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Is part of the key. And so when you stop and reflect on the things that have gone well and talk about the great things that people did, that re-energizes everybody, because, we're doing a lot of great things. And again, you always look at, we could be doing this, or we have a shortfall there, but taking the time to celebrate accomplishments, taking time to acknowledge people who've gone out of their way, and that means a lot to them, and then that invigorates them, and in turn, certainly invigorates me when you start to talk about all the good things that people are doing out there.
Yeah, spirit really matters. I have to ask one more question, because we are running down on time, and you have a company to run. But to that point, you have a company to run. The difference for you being a president now is that you have fewer people to report to above you. In other words, you're the man, or the person for the ownership overall of the corporation, but whoever is the person to whom you are accountable for the overall results and the momentum of the plant. How is that relationship factored into your day so you can keep the others, I hate to use above, because that's old-fashioned thinking, the other people who are highly concerned that you do well? How do you keep them informed? I think I see one peeking around the corner there on that bookcase. No, but it's not. But they got a lot riding on you.
Yeah. So I absolutely take it, personally, in terms of the success, having, a successful organization, making sure my people are successful. Mm-hmm. And so that's, is being, in the president role, that means a great deal to me, that, in terms of the responsibility, but ensuring that, again, my people are successful, and that we have a strategy, and that we're focused on that, and driving. And then obviously, reporting that up through the chain, because I can honestly say, through this organization, there's undoubtedly a tremendous amount of support for us to be successful. And so the philosophy that I have with my people, in terms of being someone who works with them to set the strategy, but then says, okay, now I'm stepping out from the top role and going into a role of being a servant to help you be successful. You tell me, hey, we need this tool, we need this training, we need this capital equipment, what have you, that I'm doing that for my team. But I can honestly say that the group within the Cadrex platform is absolutely following suit. So as I need things for our business here, they in turn are lending that support and that help for me. And so it's really that two-way street, I think, is that makes someone successful, versus, when you say above, someone from the top just saying, I want this, you need to do better here. They literally stop and say, what can I do to help you guys? And then that's been quite refreshing to work with a team like that.
Wow, that's music to your ears. But you see, I think what people who listen to this do need to understand is that when you are in that president role, you are a fundraiser, if you will, for your concern, for your plant. So you can have them come to you and say, John, we could really use another $2.5 million machine out here, and we could have all these savings, and we've run all the numbers. Well, then you have to go and make a case to people who could invest that $2.5 million almost anywhere across the spectrum. So your credibility is very much involved in how well your people have put together the case for any kind of capital improvement or other major change. So that's and you're only a month or so into the job, so I don't know if you had to make too many of those pitches, but when you do, I think you're going to be ready.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is one of, a culture of supporting each other.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm delighted for you. Well, John, thank you so much for coming back in. Over 200 episodes from the time you and Peter Vale and I spoke. Peter was right. You have it. You have all the ingredients of a person who puts himself fully into it. But I will say, for behalf of your family and friends, like me, you leave some out there for us too. You're not putting in 100% of the job. At least you're giving us 20% of John Uliano. It's a pleasure to know you, and thank you, John, for today.
Well, that feeling's absolutely mutual, and I appreciate your time as well. It's always refreshing to have a chat and to catch up and to talk about things that mean so much to the both of us. So thanks for the time today, Doc. Really do appreciate that.
Yeah, they do indeed. Thanks for listening to the Practice Podcast, where we discuss practice with a capital P. If you'd like to hear more, listen in on Spotify, Automatic, and Apple Podcasts, or go to enactionresearch.com/podcast-page. And if you'd like to learn more about social inaction and the nature of practice, head over to enactionresearch.com for more information. Thank you for supporting this show. We look forward to hearing from you soon. Oh, how could I have forgotten? Our digital book on Practice as a Way of Being is now available. You'll find it online at www.mylibrary.world. I worked on that book after Peter passed away, and I think you will find it a unique and very, very mobile reading experience, since it's wherever your screen is in hand or at hand.